All right, we're back again. New job. This is the warehouse job. Once again, to job scope high. I look to see what this job pays, but we're more or less going to start off with a lot of excavation. Pretty large area here. Was able to afford to get a JCB excavator with the last bit of money from the last job, so I don't have to rent a machine. I am renting a dump truck though, so we'll get right into it here. POV per normal. Um, going to. I'm going to start by peeling back some of this topsoil. I'm going to eventually start loading it with the loader if I can figure out which way I'm tracking here. Going to start loading it with the loader, but I don't want to. I don't know. I guess there is room, but kind of hard to dive in right off the bat with the loader. We'll see how much material we're going to end up taking off here. Do a little test hole first. I'm going to take a second before I load that truck. Just see how much material we're actually going to end up pulling off the top here. Doesn't look like it's going to be a huge amount. So maybe what I'll do is I'm going to cut in just enough to get that loader bucket into this job site where it can cut decent. And then I'm going to load the rest of it with the bucket loader. I think it'll go a lot quicker. I usually do a test hole on most of these when I start off anyway, even if it's a house foundation, just to kind of get an idea of how much digging I'm actually doing. You can usually get a good idea if they say excavate foundation, it's going to be fairly deep, versus remove topsoil is usually just like this, where it's only going to be your top little bit. But I basically got that cut in a little bit to start things off. I'm going to park the excavator off to the side because I don't think I'm going to use it for this part. Some of these jobs you end up removing topsoil, and then once you do that through the whole entire square, your very next step is excavate foundation, which would be digging all this little bit off that I just showed you how deep this is going to be. You'll dig all that off, and then it's going to be the same exact square. You're going to just dig the same exact thing even deeper than you already did, which seems a little bit redundant, but in reality, you would separate your topsoil, and then you would separate any of the subsoil beyond that, I guess. Topsoil is always separated. So that's kind of what they're simulating, I guess, by doing this in two steps, is that you're removing topsoil, which sometimes would be sod, which would make more sense. I think if they had this grass covered, maybe you were removing sod, pulling it down to dirt, and then, whoops. POV, right, let's go into POV. If you pulled the grass down in the dirt and then there were to excavate, I think it might make more sense, but can't complain. So the bucket loaders in this game have auto level, which most modern Cat machines I know, probably Volvo or any of the others also have it. Auto level, so you, with it all the way tipped back, you bring your bucket all the way to the bottom, and you roll forward. It kind of finds itself a stopping point right there, which we were already going in the nighttime, imagine that. Is basically level, so when you start creeping forward with your auto level on, you're diving right in, filling your bucket up, fills to 100%, and you can roll it back. Kind of takes out some of the guesswork. You can roll past that auto load point once you're into the dirt. It'll let you roll forward a little bit. Definitely gonna have to turn some lights on so I can see what I'm doing. I am running rental equipment, and I want to go ahead and work through the night instead of skipping to morning, just because I don't want to cost myself any more in rental than I already am. Big thing you're looking for when you're running bucket loader of any sort is keeping your bucket low unless you are bringing it up to scoop for some reason, if you'd be scooping that high or loading a truck. You get a lot of weight in these front loader buckets, and when you start throwing that around 12, 13 feet in the air, it's pretty simple to topple over in a loader. So keep the bucket low, rolled back, drive up to your truck. Once you're just about there, you can kind of bring yourself up over the body and start rolling it forward until you can see your teeth poking out the bottom. Then you can kind of give it your judgment call of, as you roll it, that's going to roll back toward the body. So you kind of got to creep forward as you roll to keep the teeth of your bucket centered of the dump body as you dump it out. Otherwise, you start out dumping in the dump body and then you end up dumping it all over the ground. Kind of building myself a road down into this, even though I'm only removing topsoil. It's kind of just trying to work it from one end of the square to the other. You end up moving around too many areas and creating different holes. You end up creating just a bunch of uneven stuff. It makes driving around miserable. It's easier to just find an area, continue to work that area. As I get a little bit further here, I'll start to widen this out too, so driving into it won't have to be as precise. Not that you don't always want to be precise when running equipment, but anything you can do to make it a little bit easier when you can. Hold triangle for your construction view, at least on PS5. You can see a pie graph there that's going to show the amount of material that's in the truck. a pie graph. Let's see if we can maybe move that around. View. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. So we're not even 3/4 full, even though it looks like we're mounded up. Looks like we can get a few more in there. Bring our bucket back down onto the ground while we're transporting. Even though we're not transporting material, still transporting the machine. It's good practice to keep it down. My machine rental, $1,400, interest payments of $5,000 because I did take out a $250,000 loan. I believe is the first one you can take out. Starting to widen that out a little bit more, as I was saying, to make it easier to jump into, as well as it certainly is progressing things along too. Making the hole look a little bit bigger versus just the little roadway I had going in there. Whoops, a little too quick to the truck there. I believe that is pretty much full. A ways out from the gravel pit on this job site. I think the USA map has 2 gravel pits, and I think one, you know what? Is that that might be a gravel pit up there. I'll try it out when I'm not live, but I think that's a gravel pit, and if it is, maybe we'll utilize that. But for now, we'll just auto dump these loads out. At least for tonight. So even though it's got the auto level on the bucket, when I'm diving into the soil, as soon as you start hearing the noise, they kind of give you the automated noise of that you're traveling through dirt with your bucket. It'll then allow you to roll your bucket forward just a little bit more, but it never completely flips up and dives in, so you can kind of get yourself back to the yellow line where you're going to start, drop down, bring yourself to the auto. Like right here, I can't fold forward anymore with that bucket, but as I drive forward and catch some material, then it allows me to. It rolled forward just a little bit, but that's still as far as I can roll it. And you kind of just carry that right through until your bucket's full. And then roll back. As you pick up, it allows you to roll back a little bit further. Still going to find, even though you've made passes down through here, you don't get it all the first time. We'll probably scrape most of this and have to come back through and scrape it all again. Kind of getting myself stretched out a little bit further than I want to be there. Trying to keep it organized, left to right, front to back. It's inconvenient to keep looking behind you, but I want to get myself back over where I'm positioned closer to the edge here so I can continue to clean this edge up and catch the distance up. How far I've brought out the rest of that material, so that way I'm not backtracking through what I've already dug to come back and get this again. Basically already done, so when I get to the other side I'm not coming back for anything. I think that truck is going to be full. I continue to auto dump. Turn some lights on this dump truck just to make it feel a little more job sitey. Nothing makes it feel like a job site, like a bunch of flashing lights everywhere. Rotating lights. I am noticing we are 26% done with the topsoil removal, so we seem to be making decent time with the bucket loader. Not a whole lot of action, not a whole lot to talk about. A lot of this stuff, dirt work, just takes a lot of time. A lot of people like myself find it relaxing. I think we're coming back into the morning hours here at 4:25, starting to see a little sunlight come up on the game. Which is always nice, I guess, in a way. Seems you have 1 minute per hour. 1 minute of game time, 1 minute of real time equates to an hour of game time. So in 24 minutes you make it through a 24-hour day in the game. And it's getting myself to a good point here where I don't have to check my surroundings as much back up because I'm getting toward the center of the job site as I work toward 32%. To put that truck at full again. We seem to be getting right around 5,200, a little over $5,000 per load, which seems to get monotonous, but if you skip any of these steps and don't load out any of this material, I see a lot of guys take dozers and just push all the topsoil off to the outside edges, which is surely a way to advance your levels through quick and get to the next job, but you're missing out on $5,000 per load. And as you can tell, as you sit here and do this, you can pump out quite a few loads and at $5,000 a shot. I mean, simple math, 4 of them, you're at $20,000. And I think we've done 4 loads easily in the last 15 minutes or so. I could be wrong. But it certainly doesn't take long. It's good practice. I actually learned excavator controls on this game kind of prior to actually running one. I run one in real life here and there, but not enough to actually memorize which control goes where and how to do it fluently. It wasn't really until I got this game and put everything in cat controls, what I'm more used to than anything, I suppose, and really sat down and just continued to get frustrated with trying to load trucks until I could finally get it fluent. And it's like anything, once you do it and you get good at it, it's easy. I play guitar as well, and it's the same deal. I tell everybody it looks hard, it seems hard, but once you learn how to do it, it's really not that hard. Anything is achievable. Starting to work that center out a little bit further again than I wanted to. Guess we're not too bad, so we'll just continue to work this outside edge because we're almost to the opposite side of the job site. I'm probably not going to get all of this topsoil removed tonight. I'm going to shoot for another 20 minutes or so of removing topsoil and see where that gets me, and I'll probably wrap it up for tonight. Again, I am doing all these live on Twitch. I'm then uploading all of my live Twitches after they load to YouTube. I got a YouTube channel. I believe it's CS24 Digger, CS24 Digger is what you're going to search for to find my page. And it is only this game. It's the only thing I'm going to focus it on is this game from job 1 to the very end. I don't really own any of the expansion packs of like the airports or any of those jobs they added on after the fact. I think the only thing I really did was bought the JCB pack when that came out. I think that was one of the first operator equipment packs that came out was the JCB pack. And I bought that, and I haven't done much else since. But we'll see how all this goes, and if I end up with even a small chunk of viewers that want to see it, maybe I'll buy some of those expansion packs and do some of the bigger jobs once we get there. But I do have this entire map. There's the U.S. map, which, I mean, a construction job is a construction job. None of them are really all that different. But I'm still probably going to go through them all and just teach what I know along the way. And it'd be really cool to get some other people on here to also teach what they've learned along the way, whether it be in rail construction or just construction on this game or both. That should pretty well fill that truck. Take a real world minute here to let my dogs out. Okay. Just over 50% here on the topsoil dig of the warehouse job. Like I say, I don't think I will complete it tonight. We'll probably have to do a... this will probably be in a few parts. But we'll at least continue on with the part 2 tomorrow of finishing topsoil removal, and I think getting into more excavation. If I remember correctly, I looked at the job scope prior to starting, and I think there was a list of excavation, and more excavation. So should be plenty of excavator work coming up. Even though I'm doing all this with bucket loader, I thought about doing it all with the excavator, but I think it would just take entirely too long with that JCB. Later in the game, you end up getting the Cat 349, which is a much larger machine, bigger bucket, of course, a longer reach, but it's also nothing you want to take onto any smaller on-the-road job because it can be a little bit much to work around. Counterweight swings out quite a ways. JCB is a little bit more convenient for smaller jobs. Kind of as we get into some of those bigger and smaller jobs, once we buy more equipment in this career mode or whatever we call it here, we'll go over some more of that per job and picking out which equipment is best suited for the job based on what we're seeing in the job description prior to accepting the job. Sometimes you get into road jobs that require excavation, but you're going to be on pre-paved roads. Sometimes a rubber-tired backhoe is beneficial. Again, you're not ruining asphalt in the video game because it's a video game, but if you're trying to somewhat play realistic or understand any of the physics to any of this, you usually try and keep steel-tracked equipment off of asphalt. It just doesn't do it any justice. So usually rubber-tired. And you got smaller jobs where minis come in handy. You've got bigger jobs where like the Cat 349 comes in handy. They got bigger bucket loaders in this. I think smaller bucket loaders. Everything varies in size and everything is really job dependent. Like I say, a lot of my goal with this page in general is to teach what I know and learn a little along the way if I can. So we'll go through some of that as we get further into it. What equipment works best for which jobs and why. I'm not really going to separate any of these videos out into instructional videos that specify on any certain thing that you can search for, just because it's hard to find yourself in a teachable moment where you can make a video of it and just post it. It's easier to just do these videos and make it happen along the way, I guess. All right. We're about 60%, getting to the point where we're close to that yellow line. I'm going to leave the yellow line alone and clean that with the excavator once we get to that point. But we are at 60%. I've probably got about 10 more minutes of digging here, so we'll try and come in over here in front of the dump truck. Oh, that's the thing about construction, is you've always got to be pre-planning. I don't want to, I'm obviously not digging a hole big enough for it to overly matter, but I don't want to put this dump truck in a position where I've dug all the way around it and I can't drive it off the job site. So we'll probably take a moment to empty what we have in here, even though it's not much. Get into POV. And if we can knock back into some trees, we will... I suppose we'll set it right over here toward the exit. And then I think as we dig out the rest of that and spin ourselves around, we should be able to load right there pretty easily. I believe that'll fill that truck. We are working our way up toward the 70%. I'm going to try and get another 8 minutes or so out of this live. Kind of trying to leave a little bit toward that yellow line there to clean up the excavator. It may 100% us before we get there, but I try not to just push a bunch of material up over the edge. I like to leave clean edges, which I guess is possible with the bucket loader if you were to come into it at an angle here. And just essentially clean your edge just like this. It's a little harder to do it when you're face on because it's hard to tell where you're scooping, but that seems to clean up the edge nicely, so I guess we can always come back through and clean the edges up after the fact. Drive around the edge of it like a little racetrack. And bucket scrape, yeah, see, that did perfect. Clean up a little bit of this here. Not much, so we'll come back for another scoop. 75%. Gonna get a few more minutes out of it here. Kind of get ourselves set up to a point where when we come back to this, hoping tomorrow, we'll only have a little bit to do left of removing topsoil. And we'll get into the next stage, which, again, I'm pretty sure is going to be some excavation. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be lengthy, so we'll see. I may end up having most of one whole entire live just be sitting POV in an excavator seat, which that's the way it goes. When it comes to exciting games, there's Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto, and there's Call of Duty, and there's all sorts of stuff that's action packed. Creates a lot of good content. Don't really find a whole lot of people doing much with this game just because it is hard to create any content that's halfway decent because its construction can seemingly be boring. I think there is a crew out there that would be into watching these type of videos. Calm, simple, and nobody's driving dozers off 9-foot ramps into the nearest river. I'm not flipping dump trucks. I'm not doing things to make things glitch out. I know what makes them do it. I try and just avoid it. I do what the game is hoping you'll do, which seems to make things operate the way they should. Let's see what time we're at here. It is 3 minutes of 10. So I'm going to call this my last load. Make sure it's completely empty in the bucket. We'll leave the bucket loader right here in the middle of the job site because it'll be the first thing we go to tomorrow to finish up our last 19%. We basically have just this last little corner and cleaning up the edges, which we found we can do pretty easily with the bucket loader. And real quick before we go, we get into the job foundation excavation. That's going to be where we're digging some deeper stuff. I'm not sure why they have it split into so many different sections here. But I suppose we'll find out as we go. Maybe there are separate foundations, separate digs. But we'll get there tomorrow as we sign back on to the warehouse job in its first phase. All right. Have a good night.